So also I'm wondering, apart from the blindness, did your brain injury kind of affect your motor ability as
Um, Probably some, but they said that I was very lucky where the ball hit me, and because I was only 14 years old, the brain was still growing. So while there was damage that was done, the brain was able to find other routes to get around. So I was able to compensate for that.
well? That's great to hear.
Yeah.
What are some misconceptions you feel like people sometimes misunderstood?
Well, one thing for sure, yeah, and you know what a unicorn is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have felt and still do feel very much alone, because if you or I don't know whether he's your boyfriend or not, but or you or someone that you know really well has a brain injury as severe as mine. It's a very rare type of brain injury, and different brain injuries will affect different people in different ways. I felt very alone.
So because everyone from your era who got a brain injury, basically, it's really rare that they survive, right?
That's right. It was very rare in the early 1970s that people survived at all. And like I said, if they did survive, they probably went into a long-term care hospital.
Yeah.
I guess I look at life, I'm very grateful to be alive, and so it was a combination of a lot of luck that I have been able to accomplish what I have. I won't lie to you, it has not been easy. But I think part of it also is my personality. I'm a very grateful person because I am alive. And I don't know whether I smile much, but I'm told that I do, and that's, I think, in part because I really do feel grateful. And after years of help, and I got so much help and support from my loving parents and doctors and just the friends that I had at that time, that it made it easier for me to compensate.
Yeah.
This is an example perfectly of where I know what I want to say, but I can't come up with the right word. I might want to say, just as an example, the word gold. And I know I want to say it, and I couldn't go on to university and get a couple of university degrees if I didn't understand. But it did damage communication parts of my brain, and so that I'll remember half an hour later what it is. I don't know whether you've ever played the game Wordle.
Yes.
You like Wordle?
Yeah.
I love Wordle. But there are times that I'll do like the first couple of words, and then I'll just put it down and I'll walk away from it. And my brain is thinking, because the brain saw those words, and maybe an hour or two later, all of a sudden I'll think of today's Wordle. Like, have you done today's?
I haven't.
Okay, I got it in 3 tries. But you're probably a lot brighter than I am, so.
I will do it today later.
Okay. So I think it really was a combination of all these things.
Another question is that what are some advice or things you want to say to people who are newly diagnosed with brain injuries?
Well, I guess get as much help as you can. There have been some people I know of that their marriages have broken down. I've been very lucky. I've been married now 34, it'll be 35 years in a few months. I've just been very, very lucky with the supports. I think brain injury is something that's difficult for people to understand because it is so complex, and it is, depending on where you're at. I don't know whether you like football. I don't, because of like hockey, the injuries that can happen. And so that's why I try to stay. I love baseball, believe it or not, even though I was hit with the baseball. But I'm careful about the sports that I get involved in.
What are some things that the College and Brain Injury Society help you with, and like in what ways you feel like you are supported?
Well, one thing in particular, and this happens with a lot of people who have brain injuries, and definitely happens with me, is I will perseverate. Do you know what that means?
Can you explain it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, perseveration, or when you perseverate, which is what most people with brain injuries do, they'll forget what they wanted to say. And so they will repeat it. And I think of it like, you're young. When I was your age, we had 33 1/3 LP records. You know those old records? And perseverating is kind of, for me, would be kind of like listening to one of my favorite music, and it would skip, and then go back, and then go again, and then there'd be another skip in the record, and it would go back. So that's what's happening to my brain. Like, I think I know what I want to say, but then there's a skip in the record and I forget, and it goes back. And so, sometimes I do have to repeat myself, I don't know, 4, 5, sometimes 6 times, which can be kind of frustrating. You have sisters?
I have a brother.
You have a brother. Okay, because I have 2 daughters, and I've been absolutely amazed when you have 4 people at the table, 3 women and me, how fast the conversations go. I'm sure you notice that when you're having conversations with your girlfriends, just how quickly the conversations go.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting at the table and I'll just be wanting to be polite and to listen. And I might make a comment, and one of my daughters will say, "Dad, we talked about that 5 minutes ago." And so I think one of the things that's really helped me has been my attitude and not getting angry. I mean, I did, like I said, I had real problems with anger before, but I've also had 53 years of being alive since I was injured, and that's a lot of time. So, it did take me a lot of time to accept things, because I just did not accept it. I didn't think things were fair, and it wasn't fair, but it was life, and you never know what's going to happen in your life. And like that, I never know what's going to happen in my life. I never expected that I'd be out in British Columbia, going back to university, and that's where I met my wife. But just the way things happened. And so this is where my attitude, and I say tenacity, being tenacious, but that's just the flip side of the coin to being stubborn, is, being really wanting, like loving life and wanting to do it. And if I fall, and I've fallen and I've made all sorts of mistakes, but I then just pick myself up and keep on going. So that's something that's really important. But you asked about the Brain Injury Society. How can we help? I think one thing that's really important is that people try to understand that this is just a person who has a brain injury. Like you look at me and you see a 67-year-old man, very bald. When I was in my 20s, I had really blonde, long hair. But I just want to be accepted as John, the quirky man who smiles a lot and loves life. I don't want to be labeled as someone who has a brain injury. The reality is I do have a brain injury. And so it does affect me. And so I just have to move on with that. But that's again where having the family and friends and a lot of luck come in. So when things are difficult, like when I went to university, and university is very difficult. But like for me, I went from being like an A+ student to when I was in high school being like a C- D student. And people said, John, don't go to university. And my parents, it was out of their love. They were really concerned about my health. But I said, no, I want to do it. And I was stubborn, but I failed some courses because I didn't realize how difficult university would be. But again, I was sort of an experiential learner, and like I fall on my face, and I thought, okay, it's hard, but I want to do it. And so I did.
I love your determination.
Well, and I know for a lot of people who have brain injuries, especially if it affects them, like their motor skills, their speech, sometimes it does affect their cognition. It can be much more difficult than for me. Because like I said, I'm just the one of 1 or 2% of people with brain injuries as severe as mine who have moved on. You asked again about the Brain Injury Society. They just want to be accepted for who they are. And it's difficult because, I mean, when you look at me or he looks at me, you probably don't know that I'm blind.
Yeah, not
right?
really.
And when I talk, I do speak pretty well. But, when you've known me a long time, the idiosyncrasies and some of the things that I do, which aren't normal, like sometimes having to repeat myself because I forget. But acceptance is something that's really important because if a person with a brain injury feels accepted, that gives them more of a reason to keep going, and they don't feel really badly about themselves.
Yeah, I totally get it.
So that's probably the main thing.
I think that's all for my questions.
Okay, and again, I hope that I haven't rambled too much.
Not at all.
Well, listen, thank you very much, and I really thank you for phoning me because I usually I'll use either text or email. email does tend to work better for me. But people have been, like, you guys here have been very kind, and you've been very polite, and you've listened a lot, and that makes me feel really good.
Thank you.
And if there's anything else that I can do, please don't hesitate to ask.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.